Hello, good morning, good evening, or good afternoon. So today we'll be talking about PowerShell 7. So with the release of 2024 release wave 1, Microsoft updated PowerShell and Business Central 2024 release wave 1 uses PowerShell 7. Now this video is for all the audience, either you are from BC or not. So if you're not from BC, stay here. We'll talk about what changed, how you kind of updated, what are the features that are discontinued with PowerShell 7. And let me give the credit where it's due. This video is coming based on a comment on one of the video trying to ask that question to explain about the PowerShell 7 and what changed. So I did a little bit of my research and I'll be sharing that in this video. That may only impact Business Central people, but will also impact anybody who is using PowerShell. So before we get into it, a humble request, if you haven't, then do subscribe to the channel and do share this video to have a better reach for this. So let's talk about it. What I did on my research. So I started searching about what is PowerShell, which is on the Microsoft side. You can read about it if you don't know about it. But when I was going there was an installation option because the question was on installation, how you kind of install it and all. So there is the article about installing PowerShell where you can read that you can download the package and then you can install it on your system. And these are the links. But for people who are using Business Central, this is not something that they'll have to do. And the reason is that if you go into the product DVD of Business Central 24, in the prerequisite component, there is already a component there called PowerShell 7. So during an installation of Business Central 24 release wave 1 and future versions, the PowerShell installer will be there. And as I have already installed Business Central 2024 release wave 1, the PowerShell 7 is installed on my system. So I don't have to kind of worry about it. But if you're new to this, and if you're not related to Business Central, then you can surely go into these links and download the right version. So it's an installer now. But what we are interested in is what's changed. So somewhere here, you get an overview of every PowerShell version that is released, which is the PowerShell 7.25, which are new. But then there is one for migrating Windows PowerShell 5.1 to PowerShell 7. So I have always used this PowerShell window. And I guess if you type PowerShell, no, it's not. So let's search for it. How to check PowerShell version. Oh yeah, there will be a command somewhere, and that is this, I guess. So if you do this, you'll be able to see the PowerShell version. So let's copy this and go back to our ISC and run this. So what we see here is that my version is 5.1.17762 and this, and I can just remove this to get all the details. And I can see that this is my version. But a minute ago, I told you that I've already upgraded to PowerShell 7. So why there are two? And that's where this article of migrating from 5.1 to 7 becomes relevant. So when PowerShell 7 was launched, it was not a sunset for PowerShell 5.1. You can still run both of them on the same machine. They can work side by side. And there are certain changes. What happened? So let's understand. We talk about installation. So you can just download the package if you're not a Business Central person and install that. Okay. Which is a simple next installation if you haven't done it. But when you come down here, you will notice that there are separate installation directory, and let's kind of go into it. So when you go into the ISC, which is pointing to 5.1, and go to its properties, you'll notice it is installed in a folder which is on Windows System 32 Windows PowerShell 1.0. But when you look at the path for PowerShell 7, it is actually installed in your program files PowerShell 7. So if I go into that directory, okay, see program files PowerShell, you'll notice that I already have a 7 version available here, and it's a completely separate folder than what was for the 1.0 or the 5.1 version. So now it's a separate executable, and you can uninstall and install PowerShell like any other software because it is getting installed into a directory and it does not come with default with Windows. Maybe it'll start coming like that in future. Okay. What else changed here? As per this article, all the commands which are working in version 5.1 will also work in 7.1. So you can kind of read about the differences between those two versions here. There is something relevant to Business Central users, and let me focus on that because that's the crux of this video. Modules which are no longer shipped with PowerShell. For various compatibility reasons, the following modules will not be included in PowerShell, and the first one was my favorite, which is ISE. So going forward, and starting version PowerShell version 7, there will not be an ISE version of PowerShell. So I know it's I loved ISE all these years, and all the videos that you have seen or all the articles that you have read on my blog, they all pointed to use case of ISE. But Microsoft is not going to support ISE going forward, so we'll have to kind of figure that out. Okay, but there's something else. Let's come down here. Okay, so it'll work everything as it is. VS Code, SSH, and group policy support. Okay, let's come down here. Nothing? Yes. Okay. There's this improved editing experience with Visual Studio Code, our favorite code editor tool, which is Visual Studio Code with PowerShell extension. So we'll have to install the PowerShell extension. Is the supported script environment for PowerShell 7. The Windows PowerShell 7 ISE only support Windows PowerShell. Okay. The updated PowerShell extension includes new ISE compatibility mode. So it seems that they are bringing the ISE feature, but not as an application, but as a part of VS Code. And it'll help you with other things, code lens integrations and other things. But you now get a new command palette option to enable the ISE mode in your VS Code while you're using PowerShell extension. And let's see how it works before we read further into it. So I have my VS Code here. I don't think I have any apps installed at this moment other than AL language. What I need to do is I'll search for PowerShell. Okay. And in the extension marketplace, I should see the PowerShell logo, and it's a blue tick from Microsoft. So that's coming from there. And let's install this. Now this extension kind of trains my VS Code to understand and start using PowerShell within it, right? There are other, if you're kind of a geek on PowerShell, there is a PowerShell snippet, which kind of helps you with some built-in PowerShell commands. So if you're someone who eat, sleep, and repeat PowerShell throughout the day, then maybe you're looking for PowerShell snippet also, because it kind of gives you a kind of a trick to have all these different commands. There is a specific theme also, seems to be for PowerShell, which is default purple and gray. And let's see, I'll just install this also to see what happens. Okay, this is a gray theme, default theme, and this is a gray theme. Oh, okay, so let's choose the gray theme. Okay, hopefully this is installed. As it gets installed, you will see the PowerShell icon here, and you will notice that it's trying to do something, but let me see. Okay, here you see that it is the PowerShell extension v2 2024-1, and then you kind of get the administrator. As the article suggested, let's try doing ISE, and you can enable or you can disable ISE. Okay. Okay, let's see what happens here. Oh, sorry, I should have done the ISE enable. Okay, so I can enable the ISE mode which kind of gets into a ISE theme more or less, and also gives you this command, which kind of helps you to kind of get some help. The terminal is here. And now for the terminal on the top, what you'll have to do is you'll have to create a new file. So how you do that? Let's do click here, I guess, and maybe Control Shift P, or maybe from the file menu. So if I go into the file menu, I can create a new file. Okay, and then it's a text file, and I would like to save this as okay, let's save this, and I'm new to this, so hopefully you'll understand what I'm going through right now, but I don't have to save it. I guess it seems at this point I can save it later. Okay, so now what I can do is let's try doing some basic stuff that we do in Business Center, right? The first thing that we do always is import a module. So now using the IntelliSense power, you are kind of getting the help that you need, which is also available in the ISE mode. So you import the module, you provide the module path. And now, because this the Windows directory here, it'll help me to navigate to the path that I'm looking for. In the same way, and not exactly in the same way, but in some ways that I can go to the path or look for that path. In the same way as in PowerShell IC, there are two buttons here, which is run, which will run everything on that. And then there is run selection, which will run anything which is either selected or where the cursor is. Okay, so I can just run the selection, and here I can see that the commands are loaded. Now let's try to do something else. Let's try to get all the applications. Get list of extensions, and you can just have comments that we do, and then do a get nav app info, and then let's see what the parameters are. So for instance, PC240, and IntelliSense is kind of able to understand what parameters you have. So if I just want to do this, I can just again run this and see in the same way the output in the terminal. As we have done into the basic ISE mode, I will normally transfer this to a grid view so that it's easier to read. Let's try that. So when I do that, the PowerShell 7 separate window kind of pops up and shows me the output in the same way. The only thing that it seems to be missing, and maybe there is something that I don't know, and if you guys notice it, let me know how you can do this. That I can see all these commands here, but the problem is I cannot search here, which is possible in ISE if you think about it. So if I do certain things, I can search for the commands here, right? Whatever. And then the beauty is that it also kind of shows you what are the parameters here itself. You don't have to kind of figure it out by yourself. That is something that seems to be missing, because if I come here on get n, QRS N MNOP, so N, A is what all NAV commands are. So these are the options, but I don't see a way to kind of get details about it. Now that's a bigger problem, because I don't remember things, and I can insert the command, which is, for sure, which will get into this area if I do the insert command, which is one of the option. But then for parameters, it's a little bit tricky, because I have to go and then click on this so that I get the help which is there, which makes a little bit sense, but then it doesn't give me the similar kind of ISE behavior which I was missing, right? Maybe I don't know some certain things, but I don't think that I'm able to see any options to get to that kind of a screen where I can see the command palette, or not the command palette, sorry, the command section, so that it shows me what are the different options available, because this is the only thing which I liked about ISE, that I can, get to things and easily without kind of wasting further time into it. But I'm optimistic that somebody from Microsoft will figure it out and will add a feature here or maybe there is a custom extension which is built for PowerShell in VS Code, which allows to do the similar thing. Now, let me tell you again that there is no sunset at this point for 5.1. So even if you want to run all these commands in PowerShell, ISE, as you were doing in the past, you are still able to. The only thing that I don't like about it now, because it's not supported, is whenever you run something like this, it gets a separate pop-up like this. And then because there is a internal trigger how all this is working, so you can get the similar output. But the problem that I have is I kind of don't like that black pop-up window or the command screen that's kind of getting loaded before the output is coming. But there's no sunset for it at this moment. So if you continue using that, you can continue using that. And then hopefully, if I look at add or remove programs, I should see that my PowerShell 7 is one of the component that is installed. Hopefully, let's see. Yeah. So it's a separate component now. It's not getting deployed as the default component with the Windows. And Microsoft have given you some details here to replicate the ISE experience. Believe me, I have read it completely. It doesn't replicate that command option, which I was kind of looking for. So if you figure it out how to do it, how to get the command interface into the VS Code extension, let me know, because that is something that I'm missing for sure. I can promise you that going forward, all the videos that we'll be doing where there will be a PowerShell need, I'll be running it in my VS Code. I'll not go out and do certain things, as I hate that pop-up. As I was saying, here is a note. There are no plans to update the ISE with the new features. In the latest version of Windows 10 or Windows Server 2019 and higher, the ISE is now a user uninstallable feature. So going forward, you'll be able to uninstall the ISE from your add or remove program, which is not available as of today. There are no plans to permanently remove ISE, so it will remain as of this moment. The PowerShell team and its partner are focusing on improving the scripting experience in the PowerShell extension for VS Code. So now remember this, that you can, if you're not from BC and you want to install it, you can just install all these components from different libraries. Links here, and when I click on it, it just download the exe based on whatever version I have for Windows, right? So if you're on 64 x64, you can just download it. And let's see how that looks like. So this is the PowerShell 7.4.2, which is what I have right now. And this gives you the same screen, which I have already installed. So there's no need of kind of identifying it. And this is a beta release, I guess. So that's why I'm seeing a next. So for Business Central people, you don't have to install PowerShell, because as soon as you install BC24 release wave 1 or any higher version after that, it's one of the prerequisite component and will get installed automatically. The ISE will no longer be updated by Microsoft, but as we read the article, and I'll put the link into the pinned comment, there is no sunset for it right now, but going forward it'll be a feature available in add or remove program. So if you don't think you'll need ISE, you can just uninstall it for going forward. I am going to switch completely toward the VS Code PowerShell extension, because that seems the direction from Microsoft, and I would like to stay as close as I can, even if it's a little bit tough to kind of figure it out. So hopefully I have answered all the questions which were asked around the PowerShell. Do let me know your views as a comment, and you know the drill. If you think this is important and you like the content that we talked about, hit the like button. If you hated it, hit the dislike button. That's okay. If you think your colleagues should know about it, who are like me and who are like, why there is a separate black window that's getting pop-up when I run PowerShell ISE commands from ISE, then share it with your friends, colleagues that are working into this domain, so that they understand which direction Microsoft is going towards. And if you haven't, as I said in the beginning, hit the subscribe button and keep getting notification of all the videos that are getting posted into this channel. I'll see you sooner than later with something new, as you guys are asking questions on the comments. This channel is yours. It's all the videos that are being added here are based on your request. So till then, keep learning and keep sharing whatever you're learning with your friends, colleagues, and community members. And till then, have a great day. Bye.